this thing that's happened, and I don't quite recognize it. It's a strange feeling for me. But we actually won something today, and I'm really not used to that. Just a few hours ago, the White House announced that it is going to have a new environmental review for the Keystone XL pipeline. That review is going to take at least a year. And the company that wants to build the Keystone XL pipeline, TransCanada, has said that it can't handle another delay, that their investors will lose faith. You know, investors don't like economic uncertainty. And they've already dealt with a lot. The review is going to be looking at rerouting the pipeline around the Ogallala Aquifer. And TransCanada has also said that they can't reroute it around the aquifer and still have this project be economically feasible. So, okay, it's not the victory that we wanted. We wanted Obama to kill the pipeline because of what the pipeline is carrying, which is tar sands, dirty oil, which is catastrophic no matter how you pipe it for the planet, for the climate. But we knew we weren't going to get that. We knew we weren't going to get that in an election year because the right would have gone to town on Obama as a job killer. But we believe that this delay will kill the pipeline. And if it doesn't, if this pipeline re-emerges after the election, people have signed pledges saying they will put their bodies on the line to stop it, and that civil disobedience that I and 1,200 others engaged in outside the White House with the arrests in this fall, that this will become actions in front of bulldozers. I mean, people are ready to take that type of action. And so we put them on notice. But you know, when we started this campaign, and this was just 3 months ago that the first protests happened outside the White House, we thought we had a very slim chance of winning, like a kind of a 1% chance of winning. And when Occupy Wall Street happened, I had a conversation with Bill McKibben, who has just been the powerhouse behind this campaign, just a hero. And I said to Bill, I think this is helping us. What do you think? And he said, I think it's helping us too. And the reason we believe this is because precisely for what Patrick was talking about. The ground has shifted, the climate has shifted. And what it would mean for Obama to cave in to this corporation, especially after we exposed all the cronyism going on between TransCanada and the State Department and TransCanada and the White House. This kind of corruption is precisely what's on trial in parks and plazas around the world right now. And now that it's been exposed, this has become the ultimate example. You know, as Bill said, we're occupying Wall Street because Wall Street is occupying the State Department. So there's been a clear connection between and a conversation between these campaigns. I don't think we would have won without Occupy Wall Street. I can't imagine how we could have. And this is what it means to change the conversation. And that's why this whole idea, you know, what are their demands and, you know, what are they trying to accomplish? There are already victories happening. And this is just one example of it. So, so coming back to your question, Richard, you know, I think there has been an ecological consciousness woven into these occupations from the start. I mean, you see that in the gray water system, the permaculture training, the composting, the fact that the food is coming from organic farmers. The food movement has been very involved from the beginning. Now, I just learned this today, Originally, it was traditional generators that was powering Occupy Wall Street, and then some people had the idea that they don't actually want fossil fuels to power the laptops and the other energy needs of Liberty Square. So there was a move to bring in bicycle generators. This was starting, and then it got kind of expedited because the police came in and seized the generators. So when I arrived at the park just on Monday, I went over to the sustainability table and checked in, and they had one functioning bicycle generator. And I just left today. They have 14 functioning bicycle generators. What's even more exciting is the way in which, I mean, one of the things, you know, I always compare this moment to Seattle, and you know, this was the last time we were putting corporate capitalism on trial. And as we know, September 11th kind of wiped that movement off the map in this country. And the anti-corporate movement went dormant after 9/11. And we started fighting wars and torture and the whole Bush agenda. But the movement didn't disappear. A lot of people put their heads down and started building the economic alternatives to that model that we were protesting in Seattle and Washington and Genoa and around the world. And so we've seen the explosion of farmers markets. We've seen the explosion of community-supported agriculture. We've also seen a lot of cities and towns seriously try to relocalize their economies so that they were not dependent on a single corporation that could just pull out and do to Flint, Michigan what Michael documented. And now there's a track record. So and we've seen another example of this is the track record of community renewable energy, which is just phenomenal in creating real jobs and providing real energy. So 10 years ago when they said to us, what is your alternative? That was the way they tried to discredit us 10 years ago. It wasn't, what are your demands? It was, what are your alternatives? You know, we didn't have a great answer to that question. We didn't really have articulated alternatives with a track record to point to, certainly not close to home. You know, maybe we talk about Mondragon in Spain or something like that. Now we have 10 years of those experiences, you know, Cleveland's green co-ops, things like this. So what I find exciting is the idea that the solutions to the ecological crisis can be the solutions to the economic crisis, and that we stop seeing these as two problems to be pitted against each other by savvy politicians, but that we see them as a single crisis born of a single root, which is unrestrained corporate greed that can never have enough. And that is that mentality that trashes people and that trashes the planet, and that would shatter the bedrock of the continent to get out the last drops of fuel and natural gas. It's the same mentality that would shatter the bedrock of societies to maximize profits, and that's what's being protested. We need to have a coherent agenda here. We need to have a coherent narrative, and then we need to, as the discussion moves forward, to what do we want to build in the rubble of this failed system? I think that's the conversation, not what are your demands, but what do we want to build in the rubble of this failed system? Then obviously the solutions have to have the ecological crisis front and center once we realize that this is the same crisis. And these are where the jobs are. I mean, where else are you going to get millions of jobs but in building massive public transit systems and a smart energy grid and green cooperatives? I mean, where else is this going to happen? So I'm hoping that this will emerge, and I think it is starting to emerge, and I'm seeing this, you know, there are calls to occupy the food system, to occupy the rooftops for solar energy. So it's, you know, it's dispersed right now, but it's starting to weave together, and I think that will take this movement to the next phase beyond outrage, because we're in the outrage phase. But we need to get into a hope phase of being able to imagine another economic model.
Naomi Klein, best-selling author of The Shock Doctrine, The Rise of Disaster Capitalism. When we come back, more Klein and more.